Warriors in 6. I told y'all. I told everybody the Warriors was finna win in 6. I had to say that somewhere. I'm sorry, guys. In case you guys don't know what I mean, NBA Finals talk. But yeah, here's part 2. Hope you guys going to enjoy it. The ending will shock a lot of you guys the way that it shocked me, but just listen. But yeah, enjoy.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
Villains? There's no way they're real. Suddenly, Kurogiri opened his portal, and out of nowhere, a bunch of the students were pretty much teleported to a bunch of different locations, and the rest of them were shaking. The only 2 students who weren't scared were Izuku and Fumikage, because they're way too powerful. 13 from here on then told Ida to run away and tell the teachers, but a warp gate appeared and sent everybody away, just like I had said previously. Even Tenya was sent off somewhere. This is when we cut to another person's point of view, Mina. Suddenly, we're now going to be getting into first person. I woke up somewhere weird. It wasn't in any of the zones, that was for sure. I'm not even sure if I'm still at the USJ. I looked around and saw a big tree that was dead a long time ago. There was a hole in a tree, so I walked into it. When I was in the tree, I saw a lot of dead bodies. I almost puked, but then something caught my interest. The bodies had wings on them. Real wings! The only body that hadn't started to rot was someone who looked like a young boy. He was holding a green pillow. I almost cried. The thought of such a young child being dead. But then the body's eyes opened. "Who are you and what do you want?" said the little child. My name is Mina. I don't know why I'm here," I said at the smiling boy. The boy smiled back and put his hand on my forehead, then said, "You've never actually done any real work in your life, have you?" I laughed lightly and nodded. "Then you're perfect for my power." "Oh yeah, my name, it's Harlequin. Without my tree in my life, it has no meaning. And so, as a fairy king, I'll die soon." I looked at him confused as he now touched my leg, and when I looked back, Harlequin was nowhere to be found. I looked down on my legs and I saw a grizzly tattoo there. I panicked but later ran out of energy and started to sleep. Mina's quirk now pretty much has the same abilities that King has, which include nature control. She can pretty much talk through animals and nature and hear people's thoughts. She has the abilities of the Fairy King, meaning she has Spirit Spear, slowed aging, and quirk transfer. Cutting back to what's going on in the USJ, it was in complete chaos. Aizawa was held under the Nomu, Izuku was trapped in a warp hole that was so dark the sun couldn't shine. So there, Izuku was weak. Fumikage was sleeping, and Mina wasn't around. Kurogiri was too busy holding Izuku inside this warp hole that he didn't notice a few students heading out to call the teachers. Meanwhile, on Mina's end, it wasn't going well enough. She was sent flying back, sleeping some kind of green pillow. The speed was breaking the sound barrier, and just 1 minute later, she was at the USJ. At the USJ, she saw a dying teacher, a sleeping crow, and a black ball in the sky, the warp hole that Izuku is in. Mina looked over to Aizawa and she panicked. She put her hands to the ground and vines popped up everywhere. The vines wrapped around the Nomu and Shigaraki, and she made a small vine and whipped lightly at Fumikage so that he could wake up. Fumikage woke up and headed to where Mina was. Now, we cut to his perspective. I ran towards where Mina was and I saw the tattoo she had on her left leg. I was going to ask if she didn't need help anymore, so I guessed that I could ask her later. I sat down and called Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow came and I immediately used Hunter Fest. Dark Shadow took all of the Nomu's powers and then said he didn't even give me that much power. Izuku is clearly more powerful. Shigaraki seemed surprised at this, maybe because he said that it could handle All Might. Shigaraki then gained a smile and threw a syringe at the Nomu, and Nomu began to bulk up. Nomu broke out at the veins like it was nothing, and the Nomu gained 2 horns and it became red. He kind of looked like a demon. Mina seemed to panic, but later seemed to get an idea. She threw the pillow and said, "Spear, Spear, Chastieful! 4th form! Sunflower!" A sunflower rose from the ground and shooted out straight at the warp hole, making Izuku fall out. Izuku immediately gained his pride form and rushed at the Nomu. Meanwhile, Mina growed out some more vines to hold down Kurogiri's true body. Izuku at this point hit the Nomu with one of his punches, sending it flying, and Shigaraki simply laughed, and he said that the Nomu had shock absorption, but when he looked over, the Nomu was completely knocked out. Shigaraki then touched the vine with all 5 of his fingers, and then ran towards Kurogiri and touched at his vines. Shigaraki told him to hurry up and teleport them out of here. Izuku stared at them blankly and said, "I didn't even try to beat that monster. I just tapped it lightly." Everybody stared at Izuku, who now had put his glasses on and shrank to his small cinnamon roll self. The heroes came later and saw a small beaten Nomu, a skinny boy with a destroyed shirt, and a completely destroyed USJ. That was a day that the teachers will never forget. Now, we're going to be switching to Asui's point of view. I was teleported to the boat area by the warp gate, but as fast as I got there, I was teleported somewhere else. I looked up and saw a big armor that walked. The armor looked over to me, and in an instant, he was in front of me. I fell back scared, but the armor started to talk. "My name is Gallant of Truth. I teleported to you here to ask you something." I nodded and he asked the question, "Have you ever lied in your life?" I thought about it for a time and then shook my head. I have no idea why, but I never have lied in my life. Galen laughed and then looked over to me again as he said, "You are perfect. In the last 1,000 years, I have searched for someone that have never lied once, and now I found one." I'm perfect? For what? Is all I could say before a big orb went right into me. I felt power through me, but when I looked up, he was gone. It was really confusing, but I gave up on thinking as I tried to think where I was, but I couldn't think long because seconds later, I was teleported to where Mineta was, and I tried to give up on thinking before I fell to sleep. Now, she has brand new abilities. She has the Curse of Truth, where if anybody lies to her, they'll be turned to stone for a minute, and if you lie to someone else, you get turned to stone for a minute. Critical over. You become buffed up and get powerful ×2. Demon. You can almost heal against any wound. Demon Wings. You can sprout dark wings from your back, and quirk transfer. She can also transfer her quirk to anybody else. Now, we're going to be going back to what happened after the USJ. It's been a week since the attack at the USJ, and the other students can finally go back to class again. When they got there, Aizawa was already standing in the classroom in his yellow sleeping bag. Everybody took their seats and Aizawa announced that the sports festival was in a week, so they could have 2 weeks of spare time so that they could do their training. Some students thought it was a good idea to have a sports festival so soon after the villain attack, but Aizawa told them that this was necessary so that UA doesn't look weak. After that, everybody went home to train, except for a certain living grape. We're now going to switch over to Yuga's training. Yuga was mostly just shooting his laser at random options. He had also requested to train in UA until the sports festival. Mina's training consisted of using her chastity forms and tried growing different plants. She also spoke to a lot of different animals, and of course, she trained using her acid quirk by making different types. Now, Tsuyu's training. She trained on using her curse on her siblings. Don't try this at home, by the way, guys. She also stabbed herself in the chest a couple of times, and she then proceeded to grow out wings. Guys, make sure not to try that last part either. She then grew wings and pretty much threw them all over the place, but landed in Canada, in the middle of nowhere, and buffed up. She threw a punch, and the punch split a mountain in two, and the next couple of mountains. Now, we're going to go to Tenya's training. Tenya just ran as fast as he could and as long as he could. Nothing special. Ochako, she trained at UA with Yuga, and she was just trying to get as many things as possible to float, including herself. Mashiro's training, I don't think any of you guys know who it is, but it's Ojiro. He just jumped from roof to roof, martial arts, nothing special. Denki, he was unleashing as much electricity as possible without becoming dumb. And Eijiro, he was falling from skyscrapers while hardening himself to test how hard he could become and hardening himself even further. Koji was consisting of talking to animals. Rikido was, just using shadow punches and eating his way through a bunch of sugar cubes for anyone's health. Mezzo's, The octopus guy, just in case you guys don't know, he was just lifting heavy weights, nothing more. Kyoka, she was training her aim by throwing darts and she was turning her volume to a totally new level. Antas, he was swinging from roof to roof with his tape, kind of like Spider-Man. Fumikage, he was testing his invincibility. And yeah, Shoto was training in martial arts. I don't know why, but it makes sense. Toru's training consisted of nothing. I'm sorry. Katsuki, he was trying to create big explosions, the usual. And Izuku, that man did not need any training. The second that he thought about training at night, the very next morning he woke up and thought, me train? Never. I'll never need something like that. To train would be to say that I'm weak and need to become stronger. When I stand at the pinnacle of all races, I'll never need training a day in my life. Minoru, well, obviously we know his training doesn't amount to anything. Momo, she was pretty much studying as much as she possibly could. And sorry for a little bit of a filler section, but this is kind of just how things consist. Now, we're going to be getting to more of the actual, like, hype stuff, alright? So if you guys are ready, definitely make sure to go down below and smash the like button. That said, Sports Festival began, and Midnight called up Izuku to do a speech for everyone. Izuku started to panic about being in front of so many people, but later, he took off his glasses, starting to grow, and his shirt didn't get destroyed. He requested some clothes that was really stretchy, and he started to speak. I know that many of you will try to beat me, but before you get your hopes up, I will say that this is impossible to be better than me. I will win. After the speech, all of the other classes started to boo him. Midnight stopped them all from booing and then told them all to go to the start of the race. But when Izuku walked there, he heard a crack. He looked down and saw his glasses completely destroyed. Crap, is all he could say. Izuku was standing and starting to get prepared. Mina got permission to use her pillow, Fumikage was sleeping, Tsuyu was asking questions to random people, and half the students were pretty much beginning to get turned to stone. The horn went off and everybody was running. Shoto was shooting ice at everyone's feet and started to run. After him came Akaki Mineta. Shoto thought he was first, but later on he heard a horn go off and he got confused. Then Midnight said, 4 students have cleared all course and all 4 of them have beat the last record. All Might's record. Shoto's mouth was wide open as he ran and he thought, how did they get there so fast? I froze all of them. The explanation was simple. Izuku was way too hot and the ice melted. Plus he was riding on a sun all the way to the goal. Fumikage had stole the strength of all the students that had turned to stone. Mina was just using her pillow and fly to the finish line. Tsuyu had bulked up and jumped straight to the finish line. I just imagine Tsuyu with the biggest muscles ever, just literally jumping straight to the finish line. That just looks terrifying. Imagine some green haired girl, giant eyes, tongue just swinging out like MJ, straight just taking the biggest leap ever to the finish line. That just sounds terrifying. Izuku, however, would have came in first place. Tsuyu in second, Fumikage in third, and Mina in fourth. Everybody else came to the finish line and Midnight called this event off. It was now time for the Calvary Battle. The important teams were pretty much consisting of Izuku, Mei, Momo, and Yuga. Fumikage, Shinso, Kirishima, Bakugo, Mina, Uraraka, Todoroki, and Ida. And finally, Tsuyu, Tatsutetsu, Ibarra, and Denki. The Calvary Battle was way too easy. Nobody could come near Izuku in his heat. Dark Shadow used Snatch and got half of the headbands. Mina had the best defense that anybody could ask for, and Tsuyu was just too strong for anybody. It ended up with these teams as the winners, and these teams would fight in the last event of the sports festival. Now, we skip to the battle portion. The match in the tournament would now be decided and it would look something like this. Izuku vs Shinso, Todoroki vs Yuga, Ida vs Mei, and Tsuyu vs Uraraka. Kirishima vs Tatsu, and Fumikage vs Bakugo, Ibarra vs Denki, and Mina vs Momo. Midnight called upon the first fighter, that was Izuku and Shinso, and the fight started, as Shinso talked about how lucky Izuku was for being born with a perfect quirk. Izuku would then say, of course I'm perfect, but it's all Izuku could say until Shinso said, I win. But Izuku just ignored that and continued walking towards Shinso. Shinso was panicking right now. Why doesn't my quirk work against him? He thought as the bulky man slowly begun getting closer to him. At this point, Shinso couldn't do anything, so he forfeited the match. Izuku won the match, but when Shinso was about to leave, Izuku said, "I can feel your pain. I was quirkless, and this quirk was passed upon me. I got lucky just because I committed a sin. But hey, you have committed a sin too." Shinso looked at Izuku and smiled and asked, "Oh yeah? Which one?" Izuku looked at him and then answered, "For envying everyone your whole life, you have committed the sin of envy." Shinso just chuckled and walked away, now noticing that the whole crowd was complimenting him on his quirk, and the last thing he said was, "If I have committed a sin like you, I hope I get as lucky as you." Todoroki's fight was much easier. All he did was use one of his biggest icebergs that he could and finish the battle as fast as he possibly could. Ida's fight wasn't special either. He became a living talking ad for Mei's babies, then Mei forfeited the match walking out of bounds. When Tsuyu walked up to the arena, she saw Uraraka with a determined face. Tsuyu didn't want to torture the poor girl, so all she did was ask Uraraka questions that she knew that she would lie. So Tsuyu and Uraraka, "Do you have a crush on anybody in the class?" Uraraka blushed and said, What? Of course not." At that second, Uraraka turned to stone, and Tsuyu used her tongue to carefully place her out of bounds. Tsuyu won with ease. From here, Kirishima versus Tatsutetsu. It pretty much went just like in the original, and so Kirishima won at the end, crying manly tears. Fumikage had to challenge Bakugo, which was pretty hard for the bird guy. Not only couldn't Dark Shadow steal much power from him because he relies too much on his quirk, but Bakugo had literally Fumikage's weakness in his hands. Dark Shadow gave a thumbs up to Fumikage, and Dark Shadow used the new move that he learned over training. Dark Shadow put his hand forward and screamed, "Quirk steal!" Fumikage couldn't believe this, but it was true. Dark Shadow had stolen Bakugo's quirk, because when Bakugo tried using it, his quirk simply didn't work, and Fumikage accidentally released some explosions from his hand. Fumikage put his hand forward, and released an explosion at the boy that went flying out of bounds. Ibarra versus Denki. That's pretty much the same. Mina, at this point, was now facing Momo, and Izuku was looking nervous when he looked at the match. As soon as the match started, Mina grabbed Momo with one of her vines and carefully placed her out of bounds. I mean, hey, don't want to get on Izuku's bad side. After the first round, everybody went to their lobbies and got a text about who will be facing who in the next round. And it looked like this: Izuku versus Todoroki, Tsuyu versus Ida, Kirishima, Fumikage, Ibarra versus Mina. What do you guys think so far? Make sure to comment it down below. Anyways, we're going to be going back to Shinso's point of view. I'm guessing this is the part where he gets a power up. I was walking towards the changing room after my battle with Izuku. I thought it was stupid transferring a quirk to someone else. It's impossible, right? I continued walking until I saw some kind of girl with ponytails. The way she coughed all the time, it seemed like she was on her deathbed. Are you alright? Do you want any help?" I asked her, now worried. The girl said no and introduced herself as Deanne. I couldn't even think until she put her hand on me. By the time I noticed, it was too late. I had already dozed off. "The current sin of pride has deemed you worthy of my power, the sin of envy, so I will give it to you. Now, if there is just a place that I can sleep for my last moment, that would be nice," said Deanne. When I waked up, I realized that Deanne was nowhere to be found, and to my surprise, I felt power that I had never felt before. I walked out and was feeling dizzy, and when I got home, I fell asleep again. I just wondered what's going on. Shinso's quirk now has new abilities. Shinso now has new abilities: growth, giant stance, earth control, slowed aging, and quirk transfer. That said, this is when we're going to be going right back to the USJ. Now, President Mike at this point would call Izuku and Shoto up to the arena. As Izuku was walking towards it, he was stopped by Endeavor. "Hey, you're pretty strong. Go all out on my son now, and make him use his fire side," Endeavor said with the most demanding voice he could make. Izuku ignored him and walked past him and later said, "Why do I have to take orders from someone who is obviously weaker than me?" At this point, Endeavor got furious with Izuku, and he turned his flames on to try to look intimidating to Izuku. But Izuku ignored this. To the last thing he said before walking out was, "Plus, if I went all out on you, you wouldn't have a son anymore. I mean, if I went all out on your son, you wouldn't have one anymore." Now, Izuku appeared at the stage and Midnight told them to start the battle. Todoroki shot ice out from his hands at Izuku, but before the ice could even hit him, Izuku melted it. Todoroki shot more and more ice, but all of it melted in the presence of Izuku. Todoroki was now dropping so much sweat and nothing he could do worked. Izuku would then just speak up, saying, "Just use your fire side. I know that you hate your father because of it, for some reason, but do you really think you have any chance of winning just using 50% of your power, while everyone uses 100? Heck, my power is even a sin, and I'm not complaining, so stop acting like a child, and go all out." Todoroki's left side started glowing up in flames and he grew a smile. He rushed at Izuku with all his power and Izuku rushed at him and yelled 0.00% punch. A punch that is just as powerful as All Might's when he uses a full power blow. Cementos put up some walls to stop the impact and Midnight used sleeping gas so that they would slow down, but it didn't work. Seconds later, the biggest explosion ever that would have ever come out from the sports festival came forward, and when the smoke cleared up, all you could see was Izuku standing there as if nothing had happened, while Todoroki was laying straight outside of the arena passed out, with Midnight yelling, "Izuku Midoriya is the winner, and therefore goes to the semifinals." Everybody would cheer, and in the audience, people would be waving with Inko in there, being like, "Izuku!" as he simply walked off the arena. Next was Suyu against Ida, but I'm not even going to cover this or bother. So we're just going to be cutting up to Kirishima. And by the way, guys, sorry that you guys keep hearing my notifications. It's just that I completely forgot to turn them off before I started recording the video. I just fixed that right now. But yeah, anyways, like I said, next is Kirishima, who is up against Fumikage. And seeing as this is actually an interesting battle, I figure I might as well cover this one. Kirishima tried to harden himself, but didn't work. And when Kirishima looked at Fumikage, he saw that Fumikage had hardened himself while saying that this quirk is useless. It all ended with Kirishima forfeiting the match. "Kirishima has forfeited, therefore Fumikage is the winner," Midnight screamed. The last fight for today was Ibarra versus Mina. Ibarra released her vines, but what shocked her was that Mina controlled the vines and made them whip Ibarra until she fell unconscious. "Ibarra has fainted, therefore Mina is the winner, and that concludes the second round of the battle tournament," Midnight screamed and the audience all cheered. With the semifinals now looking something like this: Izuku versus Suyu, Fumikage versus Mina. Okay, I have some very, very bad news. So the story that I found on Wattpad, it said complete, and it looked like it had a bunch of chapters. Come to find out, a lot of them were actually just fillers explaining like, hey, I've been gone for this much time, and the story was completed after the USJ. But what ends up happening is that the writer was supposed to continue it, but I guess they just never got around to it. I understand sometimes things happen, but I guess lesson learned? I don't know. It's just, oh my god! Why did you have to end the story off, and why didn't I read the whole story first to see? Oh my god. Okay, guys, we're gonna be using this as fuel moving forward. Here, I can't leave you guys hanging. Like, this dude left you guys hanging, but I can't leave you guys hanging. I just can't do that to y'all. Here is what I predict would have ended up happening for the rest of the series, and I'm pretty sure many of you guys could as well. So what I think would have ended up happening by the way that this creator was going forward with the story was Izuku was essentially going to be like absolutely stomping people. Like, this man was going to be, you getting stomped, you getting stomped, you getting stomped, you getting stomped. And then he was basically going to be kind of creating the 7 Deadly Sins team. And from the way that things were looking, it looked as if Deku this time is actually going to be the captain. I doubt that he would have put the main character of the story as the second fiddle. So he definitely probably would have made him captain. In some of the notes that he had created, he wrote that he was definitely going to add some commandments into the story, people with those abilities, and he was pretty much just going to start sprinkling all of the 7 Deadly Sins powers into the series, making it a lot more fanficky than what I would have personally gone for. But I rest my case. Anyways, though, if this video ends up breaking, I don't know, like, if you guys like really enjoy this series, then I guess I'll like, if you guys hit 3,000 likes, I'll drop my own version of this as a movie and I'll actually finish it. But yeah. I guess that's really where this ends. Deku pretty much would have mollywopped everybody, and the series would have been a lot easier, aka harder at the same time, seeing as there's other people to kind of balance things out. But I don't know, it kind of just became the seven deadly sins towards the end of everything, seeing as how many characters were getting added as a whole. But the story was great, and the creator, yeah, I left it on a big cliffhanger. Mainly my fault. I genuinely am sorry. Feel free to flame me in the comments down below. Feel free to let me know how angry you are. I would be angry too. And honestly, I was very disappointed when I came to find out this horrible turn of events, but it is what it is. Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna leave on the note of sorry. Oh my god. Yep, this is my fault. But bye guys. I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. If okay, I'm probably gonna make a movie out of this and troll people. But yeah, bye.